I'm just tired of the lies. I'm tired of the rules of the Black community. I don't want to be a part of it anymore.
I think it's really important that we actually sit down and talk about the bigger issue at hand. The colorism, it has to stop. I read the comments, and I'm sure so many other dark-skinned South Pseudo girls also are reading these comments, and the way that you guys are actually very hateful and violent.
I just feel like y'all hold the circle so tight for us. And I'm talking about our community. Don't tell me about the algorithm. Don't tell me about race. I'm talking about us as a whole. I'm attacked more by Black women, and I make my content for them.
This is an example of how broken, disjointed, and antiquated the beauty industry is inside and finally outside. Ultimately, these beauty products are designed to be weapons of empowerment. They're not meant to be tools to gaslight.
At this point, we're our own problem. No, we really are, because why would you try to bully somebody off the internet that is trying to help you? You complain that Black women have to work 10 times harder just to get half of what white women have. And when somebody comes on here to represent you so you don't have to do that much work, you decide to bully them off the internet. Just because their skin is darker. If you remember the dark foundation you threw a situation a few months back, then you should remember Gloria, because she's the one that brought all of that to light. And now she's back again, reviewing these makeup brands, trying to make sure that they're inclusive. And now she's reviewing these blushes that were sent to her. Keyword, please remember, sent to her. She didn't ask for them. She didn't reach out to the brand. They sent them to her.
A blush. A blush. A blush. A blush. A blush. I'm scared. Here's a zoom in. They all have a white base. None of these are gonna work on skin as dark as mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take it back to the lab.
Now, unlike the Euphoria foundation that didn't have any undertone, this blush is actually usable. That is not the issue. I've seen a lot of people trying to make the argument that, oh, somebody else can use. That's not the issue. That's not even what is being debated. Okay? They can be used. The issue is who these things were marketed to. The company that owns this brand is YSL, and on their website they have a Black woman wearing this foundation. I can clearly see, if you look close enough, that this woman is not actually wearing this blush to begin with. So she's completely wearing a different blush, but they're marketing it as though it is the same blush that they're trying to sell you. I don't know, it may be the same blush mixed with something else. I know for a fact it has to be mixed with something else if there's a bit of it on there, but it's not alone. But they're trying to market it as though it's alone and it's made for Black women.
This is an example of how broken, disjointed, and antiquated the beauty industry is inside and finally outside, because this is what the end customer is seeing. The problem doesn't necessarily lie within the fact that this exists. The problem lies within the fact that this was marketed to work. And really, our melanated queens were gaslit into thinking this is going to work for them based on the imagery and the words chosen to market it. Every single touch point of the development process, the supply chain, and the distribution, which is the retailer, had an opportunity to speak up. It is a collective failure. The first thing I thought when I received this in PR was they have to be targeting the Asian market. The reason I thought that is, well, because I'm the proud owner of not 1, but 6 lavender blushes that have come from K-Beauty. So I know that lavender is hot in Asia. Yves Saint Laurent marketed this to us as a universal blush shade that works on all skin tones. There's the side of what we would consider some of the fairest human skin possible, which this blush looks really beautiful on. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, like Galloria's skin tone, South Sudanese woman, who's really carrying this inclusivity conversation on her shoulders. This is so much bigger than a conversation really about the beauty community. It's an issue of systemic racism, and this is an issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion, once again being in the back burner instead of at the foreground. This is a loose explanation of the process. But likely the ideation of this blush came from, well, none other than the insane volume of blushes that have launched this year in the liquid category. So of course YSL had on their pipeline to come out with liquid to powder, a transforming texture of blush. The moment that this brief for YSL would have been issued, there would have been a decision on how many shades and what types of shades they want to launch. Right then and there, that brief goes all the way to the supplier. This was made in France. It's likely that they would have done this in-house because L'Oreal owns YSL Beauty. So that means it could have been done in-house at a L'Oreal facility that manufactured it, or it could have been outsourced to a contract manufacturer that is based in France. We don't know. The blueprint of the construction of this formula base would have sat with a chemist. The chemist is going to be working on the construction of this base alongside a product developer at their facility. Also, a marketer would have been involved in this process. Together, these 3 units would have been responsible for bringing to life the sensorial aspect of the formula, which would have then driven and dictated how the chemist would have formulated this. The design of this formula was to go from a cream to a powder. As the chemist was developing this formula base, they would have had the opportunity to sample this base before they submit it to the product development and marketing teams to see if it would get approved. There was a moment during the development process that the chemist could have said, this formula base would not show up on women with darker skin tones. Opportunity 1. Through the development process, they would have had multiple rounds of revisions, anywhere from 3 to 10. We don't know how many versions they did, but each of those versions provided an opportunity for the chemist, the product development team, and the marketing team to say, this is too light, too white. That did not happen because this is the final base and shade that was approved. Once this base gets approved, versions in little jars typically find themselves on a set. This set is usually comprised of the creative teams, makeup artistry teams that were hired to paint the faces of the women that were going to represent the campaign. There's also creative directors that are in charge of the graphics and what we call post-production. So there's a pre-production team, there's a production team, and there's a post-production team. 3 different teams. All have different roles. The pre-production phase, their job is to receive samples of this blush and to create mood boards of what type of imagery and what type of models will be cast. The people that decided which type of models were cast could have chosen models with lighter skin to actually properly communicate the fact that this will not work on women with that deep of skin tones.
Do you think that when they got the photos, they retouched them and they altered?
They absolutely had to have retouched them. There's no other way to explain this tone on darker skin. The makeup artists during the production phase had the opportunity to share that these blushes do not show up on the women of color that were cast by the pre-production team. Likely could have, but we don't know. Finally, post-production phase, the marketing team is responsible for working with the creative team that is retouching the photos of the campaign and that is providing the retailers and even their own .com the information. That's when the marketing team had the opportunity again to rectify the language that they chose to use, which was very intentionally universal when we know that this is not. So that's another opportunity that the company had to actually stop this from coming to market with language that suggested it worked for universal skin tones. We're not done. The retailer had the opportunity to sample this product and say, guess what? This is not universal. You cannot represent it as such.
Does the retailer care? Because they just want to make sales.
The retailer wants to make sales. Should have been well aware that this wouldn't work, even just looking at it, because they work in the beauty industry. They should know that. I've been involved in the way that a product comes from ideation to the retail sales floor, so I know the steps. That's why I understand how many opportunities existed for this blush to be marketed differently. Now we're at a point where we need transparency from the brands more than ever before, and we need to elevate the education at every single touch point because it becomes an issue of racism, because it's breeding hate and polarization in the beauty communities. Anything that does that within any culture or society is not something that is going to help us move forward. It's going to create divisiveness. Ultimately, these beauty products are designed to be weapons of empowerment. They're not meant to be tools to gaslight. I think that together as a community, we need to demand that YSL makes a statement explaining to us how this got through so many touch points and why they decided to call a blush that's clearly not universal. I think if YSL just owned what happened here, it would be very, very healing. I'm well aware that I'm a white woman and I'm talking about these things. I do also identify as a lesbian, which is a marginalized identity. We empathize because of our intersectional identities. It's not a coincidence that we're the lipstick lesbians, because we need to reclaim and honor what it means to be a queer woman who actually is feminine and wears makeup. Ultimately, we all want the same thing. We all want to feel beautiful and included and not gaslit. It's that simple. Remember, together, we will make this change happen.
Just to ask you, and every black person that's tried it, it's not even working for brown people.
I would like to end the debate on this infamous blush using the color theory test, but I have 3 important points to make. A lot of you guys are taking my video way out of context, so we need to talk about who is this shade for. In my video, I never said this was for my skin tone. Not everything is meant for my skin tone. I know it's for extremely fair skin, like my fiance. A natural muted blush on his skin tone and kind of covers up his rosacea. That is who this is for. The issue I have with this blush is the marketing. If you look at the swatches that this blush provides on the Sephora site, it says that this is going to show up like a really pretty lilac pinky shade on darker skin, when that is clearly not the case. False advertising, and y'all are not gonna gaslight me into thinking this looks good. This is also not a highlighter. There's absolutely no shimmer. And for $40, get another blush or 5. The point I wanna make is y'all were saying that this blush doesn't show up on me because I don't match the darkest model. Here we have my poor dad who is taking one for the Color Theory team. This blush does not match the depth of his skin tone, so it's only gonna look ashier. So now let's talk about the solution. The blush matches Chris's undertone and the depth of his skin tone, so this is the blush for him. Medium to deep skin tone or vibrant, deeper purple shade of blush is gonna show up because this matches the depth of my skin tone. Issue is that YSL didn't come out with enough deeper shades for even deeper skin tones because I only had one of the darker shades work for me. Deep skin tones, a deep purple shade of blush matches the depth of his skin tone, is as dark as his skin. I hate that other creators and people are just assuming things when I never said that this was not for anyone, because I know as someone who's marrying someone with very fair skin who that shade is for. But range lacks inclusivity. Match the shade of your blush to your skin tone. That's on Color Theory.
People are quick to gaslight Gloria when she pointed out that none of these things are working for her, saying, oh, inclusivity goes both ways. We understand that. That's not what she's trying to debate. Oh, if it doesn't work for you, then just go and pick something else. Why are you trying to use something? They were sent to her. She wasn't in the wherever looking for them, buying them. They were sent to her. And then she wanted to come on here and tell her, oh, just go and pick something else. These brands were coming to her, hoping to get some sort of virality from her reviews, because you know the kind of rich. This is a big creator. And they know what they're doing when they're sending somebody something like that, that is that big. If you understand exactly how much these brands pray they can reach a much bigger audience, you understand what's actually happening here. They were not banking on Gloria to make a good review. They know fully well that it doesn't work for her. That is not the question. The thing is, they sent it regardless, knowing fully well that whatever review she does, bad or good, they'll get it however it comes. Whatever review she does, bad or good, is going to make sure that it gets eyes on them and people are talking about this brand. So that later on they can come back and say, oh, look, we improved this. We're more inclusive now. Buy from us.
I have a hot take on this from a marketing perspective, and bear with me. We've come so far in inclusivity now that brands do this knowingly. They know they're gonna send this to influencers who are people of color. They know they're gonna send this to influencers who are people of color who call out brands who aren't inclusive. Because these influencers are gonna call them out and say, what the hell is this? Why aren't you being inclusive? And then this brand is later gonna come in with products that work for people with darker skin tone and be like, we listened to you. We've redeemed ourselves. This is 100% a PR move. Like, they know this is gonna happen. They're gonna continue doing this. They're gonna continue rage baiting influencers so they can get exposure, because no PR is bad PR. They picked them. They picked them. They know, for example, Gloria is someone who is very much about this inclusivity. They know very much that people take her seriously, and they know that if this brand isn't inclusive, it doesn't have her stamp of approval. This is her follower base. This is what she does. And they know this. So they send it to her because they know she's gonna do this. And later when she comes and she approves of their inclusivity, they're gonna be like, yes, now we have a new demographic. Now we have people of color who like us. YSL knew this. Like, they know that these shades aren't gonna work for, they're gonna work for like 2%, 3% of the general population. They're not stupid. So if influencers get packages like this and just completely ignore it, brands are gonna start doing better. Absolutely not saying don't call out brands for not being inclusive. I'm saying know the difference between when brands are rage baiting you. If a brand releases a foundation in 50 shades and none of them are, you know, appropriate for dark shades, then yeah, that's a brand that's just not being inclusive. But a brand who releases 5 shades of blush that so obviously don't work for everybody and claim that they're universal are rage baiting you.
That's what people are missing. Gloria has made a lot of videos about this, literally calling out brands that are not inclusive. And what do? They go back again, make wider ranges of shades, and then come back to her. And when she makes another review about the brand, this time it's inclusive and she's happy about it.
Yeah, this is the darkest shade of the brand new Patrick Star One Size Turn Up the Base Full Beats Foundation. Patrick Star, come to the front. The few months ago, I reviewed the darkest shade of the One Size foundation and it was way too light. Skin, you see what happens when you use your voice? This is a brand founder who cares about inclusion. This is how you do a foundation launch, period. Hey.
So I feel like other people have caught on to this and are now using it as a marketing strategy. I'm not saying everybody else that has done this has had a strategy in mind. Sometimes you just start off with a smaller budget, so you don't have the amount of money that you need to create a much wider range. That is true for some people. But this is a big company. YSL is owned by L'Oreal, and this is a big company, so you can't tell me that they cannot afford to make a wider range of blushes.
YSL blush controversy is egregious and wild work for several reasons, but the primary one is because it shows that a lot of you actually just have an issue with the very notion of inclusivity in makeup. You are so against inclusivity in general that you would rather advocate for your own exclusion. And that's deep. That goes beyond makeup, and that's called something actually, but I'll let you all fill in the blank on what that is. Because let's just make this crystal so we're all clear. If you know anything about basic color theory, you've ever seen a color wheel, you know a white base blush is not going to complement the vast majority of the population. In fact, many of the people who are making videos in support of this blush can't even use it. Their product doesn't work for their skin tone. So it's not about the formulation of the product. They don't know that from a can of paint. It's not about, oh, I think that this product actually does work for a lot of people, because that's not true. It really does just boil down to you think there should be exclusivity in makeup. You think that exclusion is okay. And more than that, you think that people who advocate for inclusion like Gloria and other darker skin creators should stop because you don't think they deserve it. And that, again, is called something. I'll let you fill in the blank. That said, though, let's use this as a moment to center discussions about inclusivity in makeup and stop feeding into people who are just, I'll let you fill in the blank.
There's always going to be somebody out there that tries to make an excuse for why it's not working on her. Basically blaming it on her. Like this person that literally comes on the internet and says, it is because you're just too dark, with a chimpanzee emoji on there.
We have Juice Box. This is what Juice Box looks like on me. To the people that say add more, okay, let's add more. Oh, it looks worse, shocking. Still very ashy. You guys keep saying, well, why does this blush look different on this person? Oh, well, I saw this person try it and it worked for them. For one, I don't know why it looks different on that person. And for two, I have a very different complexion than most people, and not every product is gonna look the same on dark skin because there are different tones of dark skin. What works on someone else may not work on me. And lastly, I think it's really important that we actually sit down and talk about the bigger issue at hand. The colorism, it has to stop. I read the comments, and I'm sure so many other dark-skinned South Pseudo girls also are reading these comments, and the way that you guys are actually very hateful and violent. So figure it out.
And the fact that she came back and did another review disregarding the disrespect, calmly making another review, just shows you that you don't actually deserve this girl.
And that's not all. They also go on to make think pieces exposing Gloria. And this one says, now let's take a look at her blush reviews and her main character complex. And they say she's trying out the new YSL lavender blush that is meant for albino people. She's acting as if everything has to fit her perfectly, otherwise it's not a good product. She's only preaching inclusivity when it comes to dark skin and not the other way around. So if the product was actually marketed towards albinos, why isn't there even one albino in the advertisement? And then you want to say, oh, inclusivity goes both ways. She understands that it's a fact that a whole collection was sent to her and not even one blush in that collection actually matched her. While it's great that it's actually inclusive of albinos, it wasn't actually marketed towards albinos. It was marketed towards the group of people that cannot actually use it, all because they wanted to get their numbers up. So the issue to me isn't even the fact that it's only inclusive of albinos and Caucasians. It's the fact that it was marketed towards an entirely different group of people that it doesn't even work for, all because they knew the kind of reach that that group of people would give them. They also go on to say Gloria is trying to make others look bad for not accommodating her perfectly. I'm all for inclusivity, but Gloria's skin is her entire personality, so much so that she's very ignorant about the inclusivity to pale skinned people. There's plenty of creators with the same issues who don't openly spread hate like Gloria does. They also go on to talk about how her opinions are biased and she only makes good reviews when she's paid, comparing these two blushes from different brands and saying they're the exact shade.
All she does is complain. This is why I complain. This is why I complain. You see how beautifully flushed I am without looking ashy?
So that was a positive review that she may have been biased on. Now let's compare that to the negative one.
I'm scared. Here's a zoom in. They all have a white base. None of these are going to work on skin as dark as mine.
Now I don't know much about makeup, but I know that a shade and a base must be two different things. And just because something has the same shade doesn't mean that it's still going to work out just fine on different skins if the base are different. It's like you are coming up with different kinds of excuses every time, and at this point it's quite embarrassing. And we're not even done. They go on to say she purposely tries to make herself appear darker, since remember, her skin is a personality. And they go on to prove it by showing a video where she's using a filter that makes her look darker than the other video where she's not. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know, but to me it just looks like a difference in lighting. As you can see, the backgrounds are also different, so maybe she's using sunlight in one and not the other, because she also seems darker here, but these videos do not have a filter. And I know it's not the first time people have been this disrespectful, so she finally decided, I'm going to log off. And she says to exist in the beauty space as a dark-skinned woman is exhausting and unnecessarily violent. Listen to Black women. Tone inclusion is the absolute bare minimum. I'm logging out for a bit. The internet has become an increasingly violent space, particularly for dark-skinned Black women. It is heartbreaking and harmful to consistently confront the overwhelming colorist, anti-Black and racist rhetoric that's directed at us by the masses. No one should be forced to endure that level of emotional trauma. What's more disturbing is how bigotry and white fragility are amplified when Black women, especially those with darker skin, speak out. The world constantly refuses to listen to us or acknowledge our experiences. There's a persistent failure to see dark-skinned women as fully women, as deserving of the same empathy, respect, and grace offered to others. We are often dehumanized, either erased or harshly criticized because the world doesn't know how to engage with our existence beyond stereotypes and shallow narratives. This is the harsh reality. Society has long been conditioned to dismiss us, to see us as less deserving of care and protection. That dehumanization has allowed for the continued disrespect and disregard for our voices, our bodies, and our contributions. This has to change. Black women deserve to be treated with dignity. Black creatives deserve recognition and respect, and dark-skinned women deserve to be seen, valued, and humanized in every sense. We are not here to be performers for the world's consumption, nor are we here to be punching bags. We are here to live fully with a humanity that should never be questioned or denied. Now, I'm not saying that all the hate she's getting is coming only from Black women. As you can see, she goes on to address white fragility as well. But one thing I found interesting is how she went on to also comment on another dark-skinned girl that was complaining about how she makes content for dark-skinned girls and they're the first people to attack her. She says it's actually very sad in response to this video that this other girl made.
I don't know if this video is going to fall on deaf ears or what. And I know I'm the last person that y'all want to hear from. But after the last few days, I have to make this statement. I cannot sit around and just watch the bullying week after week after week after week that's being done in our community. I know so many people are just like, oh, well, at least it's not me. I'm not going to say anything. But maybe it triggers me because, y'all, I have been bullied my whole entire being here. Because I feel like my adult years, until I started doing like femininity stuff on social media, that is when the bullying as an adult kind of started. But as of being a child, it's been the same bullying behaviors from women in our community. I'm tired now. For 4 years as a content creator, I've been making my content solely for Black women, dark-skinned girls, just to show them to push through. And surprisingly, I'm attacked more by Black women, and I make my content for them. Seeing so many takes on why our community doesn't support certain content has been very uncomfortable for me, because it just screams to why darker women or Black women have a harder time succeeding as content creators. I'm seeing all these think pieces on the girl Kylie Pitts. First it was Alex Earl. We don't have an Alex Earl in our community. Now it's Kylie Pitts. Oh, that can never happen for dark-skinned women. Do we ever sit down and just think that y'all cherry pick everything? As Black women, our creators have to go through alarming amounts of performing, embarrassment, comedic, you guys, just to garnish any type of views, any type of success. As a content creator and as a dark-skinned woman, I just feel like y'all hold the circle so tight for us. And I'm talking about our community. Don't tell me about the algorithm. Don't tell me about racism. I'm talking about us as a whole. What I'm saying is dark-skinned women either have to put themselves on a chopping block and attack beauty brands, and that's no shade to nobody. They either have to make content being the stereotypical Black woman, do alarming shock value content. Why can't Black women be famous like the Alex Earl, the Kylie Pitts, the Ballerina Farms, and all of the other women by doing the bare minimum, by just living life? Have you ever asked yourself, why isn't it that content is popularized for us? Why won't y'all watch it? Why is it boring? Why won't y'all engage with it? Since I started my journey on femininity, modesty, I've been doxxed. I've been canceled 3 or 4 or 5 times. I've been constantly bullied in my DMs, think pieces about me, all these weird things that I come to conclusions of. If I'm gonna be on social media, I'm not posting my kids. I'm not really putting too much out there because I never know when y'all next donkey of the day post gonna be. And it's unfair because just like one of my mutuals said, Jessica, you wouldn't even be dealing with this if you were light-skinned. There are so many light-skinned creators and white creators who post similar content as you, and they don't cherry pick it. They're not mad about it. They're not saying you're cosplaying. They're not saying you're being fake bougie or your content is forced. It's solely because you're dark-skinned that they find a problem with every little thing that you do because they don't see you in that position, right? And this is my question. If when you see me and you see my content and you feel like it's forced and it's fake and it's baloney, it's cosplaying, it's all these things, why isn't when I was showing my ASS, dressing provocatively, twerking on my stories, acting a fool, you never said I was cosplaying? You never said I was being forcing the content. You never called me out. You never had a problem. I had a bunch of girls in my DM saying I want to be like you when I grow up. I never had think pieces written about me. I never had blogs written about me. I never had people putting my address online. Why is it? So I had to ask myself this, and I said, maybe they feel that way because they feel like black women are at the bottom of the barrel. So that's why when they see you doing what you're doing now, to them it's phony. They can't see you in that position. They can't see dark-skinned women or black women in that position at all. So it's fake. It's make-believe. As of today, this is my last post like this. I'm blocking any think piece pages on TikTok, Instagram, any outlets or shade rooms or anything that keeps continuing to push stereotypical black women. I'm tired of the negativity. I'm tired of the bullying. I'm tired of the unfair behavior of not allowing certain black people to grow on these platforms because y'all always find a problem with every single thing. Now y'all are saying modesty is a woman trying to be male-centered. I'm just tired of the lies. I'm tired of the rules of the black community. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Like, I'm sick of it. And I hate to see it for us. Like, I truly, truly do. So for me, I'm taking myself out. Like, I'm literally, and this is just my TED Talk. So that's why I'm not even looking at y'all. This is me recording myself having a TED Talk. And as you can see, I'm being brought very close to tears. But I'm tired. I'm tired. And I don't want any parts anymore, like at all. All of the think pieces on we need more black women posting positivity. But then y'all don't know what to do with creators that post positivity. Y'all don't support them. Y'all cherry pick every little thing that they do, everything that they say. It's negativity after negativity after negativity. But then y'all sit around and say we can't have Alex Earls. We can't have Kylie Pitts. No black creators can hit 30K in a day. Let me tell you guys the truth. When I was doing my reaction videos, I was surpassing 30K followers a day. But also, I had women flagging my account every single day because they didn't like what I was doing. They said I was dressing up to be a white man's wet dream, or dressing up to attract white men, and I was all kind of other stuff. So every day I had people reporting me until, and I didn't come and tell y'all this because I kept it to myself, that I lost my TikTok for 4 weeks and my manager had to work hard to get it back. Yes, black women reporting me every single day. This has to stop.
Honestly, this level of self-hate is something I don't understand. Do you really feel like you don't deserve a nice life? The thought of seeing somebody else living a luxurious life makes you feel it is fake. It has to be. Why don't you want better for yourself?